You mentioned that Donald Trump stated that India had agreed not to purchase Russian oil anymore. I haven't heard such a statement from anyone else, including Prime Minister Modi or other Indian representatives. As for the UN as the foundation of the entire international system, I have already spoken about the importance of this organization's charter, about the significance of the work we are doing together with our like-minded partners to defend the principles of the UN in their entirety and interconnection. The issue is that the West is doing everything it can to sabotage these principles and continues its policy of usurping key positions within the United Nations system. They are essentially privatizing the secretariat of this organization, which in fact has already happened to a significant extent. And the current Secretary General does not fulfill the Charter's requirement for impartiality and equidistance, but instead carries out the political agenda of the collective West. We are currently working out our position regarding the Peace Council, taking into account how cautiously this idea has been received. Many countries in both the West and the East, including permanent members of the UN Security Council, but the original goal was to help the Palestinians. This has been realized in the President's statement that $1 billion from our reserves frozen in the US will be transferred to a fund which must report to us on how the money will be spent for the benefit of the Palestinian people. After what happened with regard to Venezuela, the United States is now lifting barriers on the operation of Venezuela's oil industry. However, by direct order of the Secretary of the Treasury, Russia, China, and Iran are prohibited from participating in any operations related to the extraction and sale of oil in Venezuela. This is discrimination despite the fact that Russia, China, and Iran already had investments in Venezuela's energy and oil sector. In practical terms, the United States is actively trying to advance its interests in the Middle East in that very same World Council. The situation around Iran, the Asia-Pacific region, the Taiwan Strait, and the South China Sea have also been declared key areas of American interests. This is essentially a claim to global dominance, and in our contacts with our American colleagues, we are still trying to promote the idea that it is necessary to work together with mutual respect and not encroach on those parts of the world that are far from the United States and in no way affect US security. But so far, a strategic dialogue with the Trump administration has not begun for us. We are ready for this. They are still thinking it over, maturing, but we are always open to such a dialogue. It is overdue and it is causing us great concern. There is open intent, a declared intention by NATO to establish its instruments of influence across the entire Eurasian continent under the pretext that threats to the territory of the North Atlantic Alliance members. NATO was created precisely to protect them. Now these threats are said to come from the Taiwan Strait, the South China Sea, and Southeast Asia. Therefore, there is very serious work ahead here. We have no grounds to believe that the agreements reached at the highest level, those reached between the governments of the two countries, Russian, and Indian, that these agreements are at any risk. You mentioned that Donald Trump stated that India had agreed not to purchase Russian oil anymore. I haven't heard such a statement from anyone else, including Prime Minister Modi or other Indian representatives. It can be initiated, but you know very well that the Security Union operates based on certain procedures, including the right of veto, which is held by the United States, France, and Britain. And it is absolutely clear that they would never agree to allow a decision to lift sanctions on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to pass. We believe that under the current circumstances, when the West is conducting an extremely active campaign against our North Korean neighbors, this is a reality that cannot be undone. And to talk about denuclearization in a situation where the United States and South Korea are actively developing and expanding military cooperation, including with a nuclear component, and when Japan is preparing to join this cooperation as well, having even declared its intention to abandon the principles that formed the basis of the Japanese Constitution after its defeat in World War II. In this context, to claim that calls for denuclearization are relevant simply means showing no respect for our Korean friends. We have not seen any tangible practical results, but aside from the fact that we have repeatedly welcomed the resumption of dialogue in various formats, not only regarding Ukraine, but also on issues of bilateral relations. I hope that this dialogue will eventually lead to something meaningful, including the implementation of those very mutually beneficial economic projects that have been talked about so much over the past year. But regarding the threats that are being created, as I have already said, the New START treaty has ceased to be in effect. For now, our moratorium on exceeding the central quantitative limits remains in place. These are the limits set by that treaty. And we have reason to believe that the United States is in no hurry to move away from these limits. And for the foreseeable future, these limits will be observed. We will be monitoring very closely how things actually unfold. Europe has woken up and is trying to send signals, including Macron. He spoke about this. Recently, even such an outspoken Russophobe as the president of Finland, Mr. Stubbs, said that someday we will have to talk with Russia, but that time has not yet come. Well, what kind of statement is that? Is he doing us a favor or something? This is just another sign of self-admiration and yet another attempt to present himself as a tough guy to his voters, There will be no hints or initiatives from our side to our colleagues. If they want to come to their senses, let them by all means reach out to us. And we will consider these appeals based on our own interests.